On today's show, we're talking about the 4 Silver Slugger Awards finalists that the Rangers have, Tony Beasley staying put, and, of course, laughing hysterically at the Astros' embarrassing Game 1 loss in the World Series. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Today is Monday, October 31st. We are officially in the final week of the baseball season. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers and subscribe on YouTube, where the best way that you can help grow the show is to comment any single thing below. Now, the Rangers, I think surprisingly, at least for me, have 4 Silver Slugger finalists. Those finalists are 3 of the 4 infield positions: first base, Nathaniel Lowe; second base, Marcus Semien; shortstop, Corey Seager; and outfield / DH, Adolis Garcia. I'm not sure how you can be nominated at 2 positions, even though the vast majority of Adolis Garcia's season was played in the outfield, mostly in right field, a little bit in center field, a little bit at DH. He is nominated for both of those spots. There's no right field, left field, center field specific spot in the nominee. There are just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 outfield finalists, which they're doing more finalists than they have done in years past. Normally it's just been 3. This year it's 4. I'm not exactly sure why they expanded it, but hey, whatever it takes. The Rangers have 3 Silver Slugger finalists. I'm pretty sure even if the spots were, they didn't add that extra spot for each position, I'm pretty sure the Rangers would have finished with 4, maybe just 3. Maybe Adolis Garcia wouldn't have made it into that top crew, but you know what? Looking at some of his numbers compared to some of these other guys, I think they all deserve it. At first base, the other nominees for the finalists are Vladimir Guerrero Jr. of the Toronto Blue Jays, Jose Abreu of the Chicago White Sox, and Anthony Rizzo, of course, of the New York Yankees, the home run hitting fiend. At second base, the fellow nominees, along with Marcus Semien, are Jose Altuve of Houston, gross, Andres Jimenez of Cleveland, well-deserved, really great season for him, somehow hitting in the 7 hole in the playoffs. Just, again, absolutely bonkers managerial decision there. And second base, DJ LeMahieu, who I don't remember him playing a whole lot of second base this year. I also don't remember him playing a whole lot of games this year, but apparently he did enough to merit a spot, because honestly, second base offensively, not that great this year. I mean, Marcus Semien had a horrendous first 2 months of the season, and I mean, granted, he was great the last 4 months of the season, but he still did enough to get his name in here, because the rest of the second basemen, for the most part offensively, weren't that great in the American League. But we move on to shortstop. We have the Toronto Blue Jays' Bo Bichette, Boston Red Sox shortstop Xander Bogaerts, and Minnesota Twins shortstop Carlos Correa, all of whom very well-deserved, great offensive seasons for them. In the outfield, we have a whole lot of guys. Let's just go ahead and write in one of those slots, whatever one of you choosing. Aaron Judge, the New York Yankees, you set an AL home run record. I'm pretty darn sure you're going to win a Silver Slugger, whether that's right field, center field, left. I think it's just 3. I think because they're not nominating by position, they're just going 3 outfield spots to whoever deserves it most. There's also Julio Rodriguez, the young star rookie sensation for the Seattle Mariners. Right fielder Kyle Tucker of the Houston Astros, gross. Mike Trout, who missed several games this season, was still, I believe, top 5, if not top 3 in home runs in the American League, with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Randy Arozarena of the Tampa Bay Rays somehow made it this year. Didn't have that great an offensive season, but I guess they were just looking for names. George Springer of the Toronto Blue Jays. Taylor Ward, who had a fantastic first half of the season, not as a great second half of the season, but still overall really, really solid numbers for him. Really encouraging for Angels fans. They had someone besides their top two actually doing things offensively this year. He is, of course, with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Anthony Santander, the right fielder for the Baltimore Orioles, Adolis Garcia, and Teoscar Hernandez of the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, if you're looking at the designated hitters that Adolis Garcia is up against, just go ahead, put that out of your mind. He's not winning it. He's not winning it at DH. It's just not happening. There is Shohei Ohtani of the Angels. Yeah, better season than Adolis Garcia offensively. Yordan Alvarez of the Houston Astros, who is not nominated for it at an outfield position, even though he played a decent bit of outfield this year. He's almost certainly going to win it. Giancarlo Stanton of the New York Yankees, better offensive season than Adolis. And George Springer of the Toronto Blue Jays. Adolis might get more votes than him. But he's not winning it over in DH over Yordan Alvarez or Shohei Ohtani or Giancarlo Stanton. You might squint and put him over him. But I think outfield is most definitely his best chance because there are three different positions. Well, two positions up for grabs going up against, Mike Trout, Kyle Tucker, and some of these other fantastic dudes. So maybe just one outfield slot with Mike Trout probably deserving to get one of those spots even while missing a decent number of games this year. Now, the other bit of news is that Tony Beasley is back. He said he never really thought about leaving the Rangers, which is super encouraging. One of the things that I was really worried about when the Rangers, the only thing that I was worried about when the Rangers decided to hire Bruce Bochy as their manager. By the way, if you haven't listened to the crossover episode with Ben Kaspick, host of Locked On Giants, that I did last Thursday, which was the most recent episode before today, go check that out. Some really great stuff with him talking about Bochy as a manager and all kinds of stuff. But one of the things that I was worried about, and that happens a lot of times, is that when you have a guy take over as interim manager and he gets an interview and doesn't end up getting the job, usually those guys don't tend to stick around. We have seen that in the past, but that was not the case with the Rangers this year. Tony Beasley loves it with the Rangers. Everybody with the Rangers loves Tony Beasley. Very, very glad that he is back. Just over the moon excited that he did not think about leaving and going and pursuing other opportunities elsewhere. I think eventually I would really like to see him get a managerial shot somewhere. I don't know if it's going to be with the Rangers, but I think he's definitely got that potential. Wasn't a great look for him, wasn't a great situation for him being the interim manager, but I think he did a really good job with what he was given and given the context of the situation he was given. But very glad that he is back with the Rangers. Coming up, we're going to look at which of these Rangers is most likely to win their Silver Slugger award, and, of course, laughing uproariously at the Game 1 World Series loss by the Houston Astros. But first, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. There is also a World Series going on, and if you would like to place some money on your hatred of the Astros and bet on those Phillies, you can go ahead and do that at BetOnline. You'll find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every single game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more, because BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Now, the Rangers have 4 guys in positions to possibly win a Gold Glove. Some are more likely than the others. Some have a clear standout winner. Like I said, Aaron Judge is for sure going to get one of those Gold Glove spots or Silver Slugger spots in the outfield. But let's start. We're going to go in numerical position order here, as in the 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what the deal is when they call it a 6-4-3 double play. So we're starting with 3 at first base, which still kind of boggles my mind that they decided to do it like that, but you know what? Whatever. and skip over from second to third. But that's a whole nother issue for another podcast about why they decided to number those positions like they did. I don't know who did that in the 1780s or whatever when baseball was being founded, but I think we might want to update that. Or is it just a sunk cost after 200 years of playing this game? Anyway, Nathaniel Lowe going up against Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Jose Abreu, and Anthony Rizzo. In terms of star power, he does not exactly have that on his side here. There's Jose Abreu, a former AL MVP, Anthony Rizzo, a former World Series winner and longtime multi-time All-Star with the Cubs before being traded to the Yankees, who led the league for first baseman, or at least led this league, not Major League Baseball, in home runs, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who obviously has that star power around him. But Nathaniel Lowe had an overall fantastic offensive season. He is one of the better hitters in all of baseball, especially in that second half. He was just absolutely monstrous. One thing that he does have going over most of those other guys is just the overall numbers are a little better than him. I should correct myself. Anthony Rizzo and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. were both tied with 32 home runs this year. That led All-American League first baseman. Nathaniel Lowe is third. And somehow Jose Abreu is nominated here with only 15 home runs because there really wasn't a whole lot of fantastic excellence at first base offensively this year. Just not a whole lot going on. So the overall numbers were pretty good for Jose Abreu. He did have a 304 batting average, a 378 on base, which is higher than Nathaniel Lowe. But yeah, I'm a little surprised Luis Arias, I guess the slugger part of this was where he missed out. He only had 8 home runs, but he hit 316, and I'm pretty sure he won the batting title in the American League. Overall, pretty darn good offensively, but he did not make it here. Nathaniel Lowe, 27 home runs, had a 302 batting average, a 358 on base, and a 492 slugging percentage. That is tops among all of these finalists for the first base Silver Slugger Award. His WOBA is higher than anybody else on this list, highest among AL first basemen at 368. His weighted runs created plus, another overall catch-all metric where 100 is average, he was at 143, which is higher than anybody else on this list, higher than Jose Abreu at 137, higher than Vladdy Jr. at 132, and higher than Anthony Rizzo at 132. Right on the nose as well. The slugging percentage of 492 is higher than anybody else. The on base is not higher than Jose Abreu, but you're going for slugger. I know it's technically overall offense, but slugging percentage. Maybe they just give it to the guy with the highest slugging percentage at the end of the year. Maybe that's just how they make it an easy tiebreaker, so it doesn't have to be voting and it doesn't have to be subjective. Like it's going to be, but I really do think that Nathaniel Lowe has a fantastic chance to win. Overall offense, I think he contributed the most of any American League first baseman. Now, if it was just overall and you had to include the National League, well, there was a guy called Paul Goldschmidt who was putting up some just absolutely stupid numbers. Is probably going to win the MVP in the National League. I don't think his numbers are better than him. But other than that, like Nathaniel Lowe was one of the best offensive first basemen in all of baseball. I can't think of anybody else in the National League who I would put ahead of him offensively at first base besides Paul Goldschmidt. But this was a really fantastic season. I know Vladimir Guerrero Jr., his overall numbers were down from what they normally were or what they were a year ago. He didn't quite have the 50 or so home runs that he had last year. Maybe it was just 48. It wasn't quite the same level of absolute insane dominance, but still a pretty darn good season that he had offensively. Okay, it was 48 last year, only 32 home runs this year. Still a good season, but I think Nathaniel Lowe really deserves to have this honor because he was absolutely fantastic. Now, let's look a little bit at second base. We are going, okay, there we go. There's my order. Jose Altuve only played 141 games this year, but ended up hitting an exactly even 300. Had a slugging percentage of 533, 28 home runs, which led all of the second basemen. Also had a 10.9% walk percentage, an on base of 387. That led all of these AL second basemen, and a WOBA of 397, which is, let's see, 47 points higher than the next closest player, which was Luis Arias, who I guess played second base. I don't remember him being a nominee for second base, but there he is. Yeah, no, Andres Jimenez is the other one, and DJ LeMahieu. Arias definitely should have gotten it over DJ LeMahieu at second base. Definitely should have gotten it there. But you know what? I'm not going to complain. Andres Jimenez had a 297 batting average, a 364 WOBA. Now, Marcus Semien was second with his 26 home runs. His slugging percentage of 429 was behind that of Andres Jimenez and Jose Altuve. I'm really surprised that Gleyber Torres wasn't the nominee here over DJ LeMahieu, because I feel like I think he played more second base than DJ LeMahieu, had more home runs, literally twice as many home runs as DJ. But, you know, here we are. But yeah, Marcus Semien, I don't think is going to win this. I honestly think he's probably going to finish in third of these four nominees. Not to belittle his season, but without that first really poor 2-month stretch, I think he would have a really good shot at this. Jose Altuve struggled early on, struggled most of the postseason outside of that stupid game 2, or that I'm, ignoring purposefully because it's Houston Astros doing things well. But I don't see any way that Marcus Semien is able to wrestle this away from Jose Altuve. Had a great offensive season, has been a really great offensive player, as much as it pains me to say an Astro did anything well. I'm pretty darn sure that Jose Altuve is going to be a lock at second base. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to look at shortstop and outfield and laugh at the Astros uproariously at a completely embarrassing, blown World Series Game 1. First, word from our sponsors. Now, shortstop, I think, might be the Rangers' second best bet. I think Nathaniel Lowe is probably the best bet. But shortstop, even though Corey Seager's overall numbers, the batting average, the on-base, and some of the other things like that, were not quite as elite as he is normally used to, the home run numbers were absolutely terrific. He blew pretty much everyone out of the water. The most home runs by a left-handed shortstop in MLB history. Still, the fact that he stole that record from Brad Miller kind of boggles my mind, especially seeing the season that Brad Miller just have, and remembering that he was, in fact, a shortstop on purpose because the Rays are super, super weird. But Corey Seager finished the year with 33 home runs. That is well over what any of his fellow counterparts did in the home run total. Bo Bichette was the next closest at 24, and he played in 159 games, so it wasn't like he missed a bunch of time. Carlos Correa had 22 home runs, only played in 136 games this year, but overall offensively had a really good season when he was healthy. And Xander Bogaerts had just 15 home runs this year, but Bogaerts led all of these finalists in batting average at 307, on base at 377, way higher than everyone else, actually 60 points higher on the nose than Corey Seager. Seager's slugging percentage was 1 point below that of Bogaerts, even though Bogaerts only had 15 home runs. Bogaerts had quite a few doubles and obviously a lot more hits than Corey Seager. Also, fun fact, if you are sorting by Fangraphs WAR, Corey Seager is the second most valuable shortstop in the American League this year, and these four finalists are 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you go to number 5 in the American League, I'll give you one guess. Who is your one guess? Is it Elvis Andrus? If not, you're wrong. Elvis Andrus was the 5th most valuable shortstop in the American League this year, according to Fangraphs WAR. That is more than the so-called rookie sensation Jeremy Pena or Jorge Mateo of Baltimore. Absolutely love that for Elvis Andrus, and hope he finds a home on a team that doesn't suck next year. That would be really nice for him. But pretty much the argument for Corey Seager is that he strikes out less than any of these other players that he is in with. His isolated power is significantly higher than these other guys at 211. The next closest is Bo Bichette at 179. The WOBA is lower than all of these other finalists. The expected WOBA is significantly higher than all these other finalists, which again, his expected numbers, I've talked about it literally all season, his expected numbers and his actual numbers being so ridiculously distant. But even the weighted runs created plus, he is well below, 12 below the next closest to him, which is Bo Bichette and the leader in the clubhouse is Carlos Correa at 140. So I think Seager's got a real shot at this, just because if you're just going on slugging and power and all that good stuff, it's Corey Seager's. He hit well over the amount of home runs that any other shortstop in baseball was doing. Now, Fernando Tatis Jr. being out for the year, it definitely helped that, but, he wouldn't be competing with him for the Silver Slugger. Anyway, I think Seager probably has the next best shot at winning a Silver Slugger, not a Gold Glove. Anyway, let's look at these Silver Slugger for the outfield nominees and where our beloved Adolis Garcia stacks up against these guys. Now he's going up against Taylor Ward, Aaron Judge, and some other pretty impressive guys. If you want to look at home runs, we obviously have Aaron Judge leading at 62. Next, we have Anthony Santander at 33. Then we have Kyle Tucker at 30. And then Julio Rodriguez just one ahead of Adolis Garcia. And then we have Adolis Garcia here at, I believe that makes him 5th. Yeah, if you're throwing out Yordan Alvarez, which we are for this purpose. So that is not his strongest point. If you want to go with isolated power, which is another pretty much slugger-y stat, Adolis Garcia goes all the way down to 8th place in terms of outfielders. If you're throwing out the guys who are not finalists, you will throw out Yordan Alvarez and Seth Brown. That puts Adolis Garcia at 6th in this list. He is ahead of George Springer, Taylor Ward, and Randy Arozarena on this list, but it's not looking like there is a really great metric for him to go ahead and win this. If you sort it by slugging percentage, again, throwing out Yordan Alvarez, he is at 7th place among these finalists. I really don't see a scenario where you can justify Adolis Garcia winning this. And that's also not including Mike Trout, so I'm pretty sure that would bump him down one because I'm just sorting by the qualified players. So Mike Trout pretty much bumps him down in all of these categories. It is nice for him to be nominated for a Silver Slugger. I think it might be a little bit of a makeup call, if you will, for not giving him a Gold Glove nomination last year, which the makeup for that should have just been naming him a Gold Glove finalist this year, which would have been a huge makeup call. I don't think that he was as good defensively this year as he was last year, but still last year him not getting nominated at any of his 3 positions I think is just really frustrating, and him not winning Rookie of the Year as opposed to rookie of the postseason, which it kind of felt like it was when Randy Arozarena won it, but it's fine. But I really do think the order of likelihood that these players will win a Silver Slugger, it's going to be Nathaniel Lowe, then Corey Seager, then Marcus Semien, then old Adolis Garcia. Still, nice for the Rangers to have 4 nominees. I wasn't sure they would. I honestly wasn't sure that Marcus Semien would end up getting nominated, but I'm glad that he did. I think all of these guys are well-deserved nominees, whether they win or not. It's irrelevant. It just kind of shows, hey, the Rangers offense is definitely there to mean business. Now, time for the fun part. Time to laugh uproariously at the Houston Astros. If you didn't watch this game, I don't blame you. Not watching Astros games is a green flag in my opinion. But since I hate myself a little bit, I have to watch these games and hope by some small miracle that the Phillies can bring that pain and that madness. And after 3 innings, the Houston Astros were up 5-0. I thought, okay, well, it's time to go ahead and punt on this pipe dream of the Phillies winning the World Series. It was fun while it lasted. Stupid Astros are going to win another stupid World Series this time without an asterisk, and that's going to be a real bummer. But with that 5-run lead, they blew it. They blew it with their number 1 on the hill, with their future Hall of Famer on the hill, with the guy who is going to almost assuredly win the AL Cy Young this year on the hill. And he blew it. He was perfect. He was absolutely perfect through the first 3 innings. Looked unhittable. And then he looked significantly less perfect in that 4th and 5th inning where he ended up giving up 5 runs. Still, after all of these years, after 87 seasons approximately in the big leagues, and I think 13 or 47 trips to the World Series, I think it is, if my math is correct, which it just might be, he still does not have a winning decision in the World Series, and he will probably have maybe one more shot at it this year, and whoever he goes to next year, which I talked with Ben Kaspick of Locked On Giants last week and theorized that maybe Justin Verlander could go to the Giants, which would be absolutely hilarious, them losing Justin Verlander. But yeah, he's not going to get a win in this game. He might get it in his next game, which is, I believe, going to be in Philadelphia, which is going to be much, much more difficult. But the Philadelphia Phillies offense is absolutely resilient. They got a JT Realmuto home run in the 10th inning to take the lead, and David Robertson closing out game one to give them a 1-0 lead, to give them the one game that they wanted in Houston. This is going to be a very, very bitterly fought series. Aaron Nola was not great in this one, got knocked around, was taken out in the 5th inning, didn't even make it through 5 innings after he gave up those 5 runs. But the Phillies brought in their 2 workhorses, their 2 best relievers in Jose Alvarado, the absolutely electric left-hander. They also used Ranger Suarez, who's supposed to be their Game 3 starter, probably going to end up being their Game 4 starter, for a couple of key outs in the middle of this one, right after tying this game up, and kept the Astros off the board. Then they used Sir Anthony Dominguez for an inning and 2/3, where he was just absolutely fantastic, and got David Robertson, the former Yankee, former Bama player, Roll Tide, to close this one out. Just an absolutely beautiful display of why this Phillies team is here. They are fantastic at rallying from big deficits. They are never out of it, and they can even rally against the best of the best. They got that run off of Luis Garcia, who was not super great in this one, but they showed that they can get hits off these incredible pitchers of the Astros. I was kind of bullish, like very quietly, on this Phillies team because the Astros offense hasn't been as electric. I mean, Jose Altuve has been completely silent for most of this postseason until of course game 2, when he's looking like he's turning it on at exactly the right time for them. But Yordan Alvarez hasn't done much since the first series. Kyle Tucker had a fantastic game in this one, and a pair of home runs, a 3-hit performance, and looked incredible. But he's also looked incredible in game 2. And by the way, if you're looking for a comparison to Evan Carter, look no further than Kyle Tucker, just a professional hitter who's going to hit like 270 or something on base between like 340 and 360, and have like 25-ish home runs a season while playing absolutely incredible defense and be super, super unheralded, which is, if you're looking for a comp and you want some excitement, that is the kind of guy that I think Evan Carter's ceiling could look like, which would be just absolutely fantastic. But nice time to laugh at the Astros. They had another 5-run lead. They didn't end up blowing that one in game 2. So the series is tied up. Going to Philadelphia tonight. There's going to be some spooky vibes in Philly, some hostile Philly fans, and maybe the Phillies can retake that edge in game 3 of the World Series with old Thor Noah Syndergaard on the hill from Mansfield, Texas. Should be an absolute barn burner tonight in Philly, and I am really hoping that the Phillies can take this one, because it would be absolutely hilarious if the Astros lose to 3 different NL East teams in the last 4 World Series. That's going to do it for today's show. On tomorrow's show, I'll be back. Probably talk a little bit more about this World Series. Maybe do some more of these player wrap-up, some positional reviews, maybe look a little bit at third base later this week and try and have a crossover with somebody on this Locked On network. Not exactly sure who, but we'll be having a lot more crossovers throughout the offseason, especially in this month of November, where we still be giving you 5 episodes a week. That'll do it for today's show, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.